Welcome to my channel. You're welcome to subscribe, of course, if you want to subscribe. 1,000 subscribers would be nice. If I get to a million, I did say I was going to do a viral TikTok dance at that point in time and stream it live. 10 million, I let the subscribers choose where I would do it live. Anyways, like or dislike, comment or leave feedback on the video. I do read my comments. Leave any feedback if you want to leave any feedback. I'd love feedback. If you want to troll, go ahead and troll. I don't mind. I'd love to be trolled. I've only been trolled a couple of times, so you're welcome to troll me all you want. Um, okay, so on to the Carlos Correa saga that's ongoing. Ken Rosenthal reported basically that there are issues with with Correa, basically with his physical, with the New York Mets, to the point where it's the same thing what the San Francisco Giants identified. The New York Mets also have the same exact concerns, it looks like, and this is a case where could this possibly renege or the deal between the Mets and Correa? My honest opinion, I don't think so. Why? Because Cohen being Cohen, I think he's just going to go with it and just roll the dice and go with it. And that factor is also what he said earlier. After signing him, like basically that statement that he put out in the press, it's going to be hard to take it back. He to save face, he's just going to roll with it and basically gamble on the fact that Korea for at least a good 7 more years will be healthy enough to play with the Mets. Now the question is like if he takes the gamble, the thing is like it's not going to be the same situation as it was like with David Wright, where when he was out for those years, the Mets had insurance on him, so they didn't lose as much. But the problem is in this situation with Korea, knowing that two team physicals have already shown that basically he's got issues or there are concerns raised about his, because of it. I don't think an insurance company is going to go upon it. If they do, the only way I see it is basically they'll do a high premium on that player. Now the question at hand here is not the question at hand, but it's more of a case of like the question of the surgery. Basically, it's something that happened when Korea was 19, back in 2014, when he was in the minor leagues with the Astros. Basically, he had a broken right fibula, and it was repaired with basically plates around it. But they were saying that originally it was thought to be closer to the knee, but it's actually closer to the ankles, which is a big thing if it's closer to the ankles, because the fact is like running, a lot of a lot of momentum and speed is coming generated from those ankles as well. I mean, not generated from the ankles, but it helps supports it. So if your ankles go, you're gone. Basically, you can't run, you can't do anything practically at that point. I mean, you can, but not to the extent of being a professional athlete. The only thing is like this happened in 2014. Since then, for like 8 years, there's never been an issue. I mean, honestly, he was clear last year when he signed with the Minnesota Twins for 3 years at what was it? At I think $105 million basically. And then after that, after he decided to opt out, and of course having Boris as his agent, he opted out of the contract to play the free agency market. Because at that time, the Angels, I mean not the Angels, the Twins were offering him basically, what was it? I think about where? How am sorry, I got to look it up. This is a little bit me fact checking right now as we go. They were offering him basically, 200 and something million dollars, $285 million for 10 years. Of course, he said no. He rejected that offer because of Scott Boras, of course. And at that point, the Giants came in. San Francisco Giants came in and they offered him, basically, what was it? 13 years for $350 million. Of course, who's going to say no to that? So when Scott Boras gets a huge chunk of that too. Of course, the Giants were like kind of, the whole saga is basically they did the physical. They're trying to look it up. Boras couldn't wait that long. He basically shifted the blame on the Giants. When in reality, being the Giants the way they were now, looking at it now, they are right to do that because after that, Boras went to the Mets, tried to open it up with the Twins, but then came back with the Mets, and Cohen's like, yes, let's do it quite quickly. And now the Mets doctors are raising the same exact concerns that the San Francisco Giants had concerns with, was basically his surgically repaired right leg, specifically more towards closer to the ankle at that point too. And they might have known something else there at that point. And so it's more of a case where, like, now the narrative has shifted from what Boris was trying to put the blame on the Giants. I was like, oh, I gave them ample time. They were just like, basically um, lollygagging ways, or just basically strolling along and, like, kind of delaying it as much as possible, when the Giants were probably doing their due diligence. And I think Boris realized that they were going to include some kind of within the contract about playing time, and he was probably like, no, hell no, let's open it up back up with the New York Mets and Twins. Now the fact that the Mets have raised the exact same concern as the Giants have through their physical. Now the Mets can do one thing, is basically they can try to put some provisions in the clause, or some kind of provisions with the clause within the contract. Basically, it's like, okay, hey, you got to play X amount of time, or if you're out this much, we get some money back, or something like that, or renegotiate the deal to maybe, instead of 12 years, to maybe I don't know, maybe 8 years or 9 years for that matter. Correa being Correa, chances are he probably said, oh hell no, I need that 10 years at least guaranteed. Boris being the super agent that he is, it's a matter of, like, who does what basically at that point. I think it's more of a case where, like, Boris probably told Correa to gamble and, like, let's go, which at the time made sense to gamble, but now in hindsight, 2020, might not be so if the Mets decide to go back on the deal. More so because the fact is like, no one else is going to come after Correa like this for 10 years for that much of a long-term contract. They're not going to do this. In reality, it might be 4 or 5 year deal with some provisions in place, and they're not going to get the exact same deal that the Twins initially first offered of the $285 million. That's out the door now, because, like, the Twins are probably going to say, you know what, let's take a look more closely at that. And I think every team that's going to look at Correa, if the Mets decline the contract, decline the offer, rescind their contract offer, any other team that Boris hits upon, they're probably going to say, oh, we want to do a thorough background, physical before signing them at that point. Honestly, from a personal matter, the way Boris has treated the New York Mets, I would love, the Mets to basically stick one up Boris's ass, basically, because, sorry for the language, but it's more of a case of, like, what Boris did with some of the other players for the Mets. I mean, he pretty much blew their payroll up, and screwed them out of, used the Nets as well as leverage for other teams as well too. To be honest, I bet you that's what he did within this situation with Correa. He probably leveraged the Mets to the Giants, and that's why the Giants came back with $350 million. If I'm Cohen, I say, you know what? No, I'm going to give him 8 years for maybe $285 million. A little bit more than what the Twins were offering per year on a per annual basis, but at the same time, it's less less years. But no, I have a feeling the way Cohen is, basically, he's probably going to want to save face after essentially going to the press and saying what he said about the Korea signing, that he's going to want to save face. He's probably just going to go forward with it. And honestly, in his perspective, if Korea, if Korea, I mean, the whole Mets team, anyways, the team itself basically is a tax write-off for him, anyways. So in this situation, if Korea does get injured for like 2 or 3 years, okay, that's pretty much it. So long as it's not guaranteed money, then he should be okay. But I don't know. We'll see. It's this is something that like, I mean, honestly, all the other shortstops have been signed out now, so Korea's the only one left. That's worthwhile. The only question is like, who's willing to sign him if the Mets do rescind the offer, basically. So now I guess it's to see if the Mets rescind the offer or restructure the contract, and if they try to restructure it, will Boris be for it at that point? That's the real question. Anyways, you're welcome to comment or leave feedback about my opinion about this. Do you think Correa will be with the Mets still? Do you think the contract will be restructured, or do you think Cohen will just go for it and leave it as is, basically? With that, I end it off as I normally end it off, basically, which is unfiltered, unedited, and unrehearsed. Until next time.